Hey there, boys and girls of the YouTube world. Today, the Duff Dog on here to see if we can't get this old Ford F100 back on the road for the first time in 18 years. It's also -9 degrees out, so we're going to use some heavy equipment to get inside where it's nice and toasty warm, because it's colder than a witch's you-know-what in a cast iron brow. All right, let's get her inside. Anything underneath we got to chase out of there before we drag her inside? Good deal. In case you were contemplating moving to Podunk, North Dakota, that's how much snow has accumulated in the box of a pickup like this. Yeah, I know, Duff. I'll let you out of there in a second. He had to go sniff her out. All right, I'm gonna lift this thing up in the air and try to get as much of this out of here, so yeah. Okay, we got most of the hard water drug out here with the skid steer. I'm thinking there's water in this rear end similar to the 56. Oh yeah. We got ourselves another water line. It's because the wheels don't turn. Also, that main leaf spring is lift the chat. And of course these don't have a drain plug, so we can't drain the water out once it thaws. So we're gonna probably have to either drill a hole and put a drain bung in it, or we're gonna have to pull the axles and pull the center section and get the water out that way. Awesome. But it is a divisional championship Sunday, and I happen to be an Eagles fan, and I used to be a 49ers fan, and they're facing off at 2 p.m. So I'm gonna let this thing thaw, and I'm gonna go cheer on the Eagles. So hopefully those guys win today. Maybe I'll be making a trip to Glendale, Arizona. So if anybody's got a good lead on a car down there, or a place to crash, or a place to go have a sandwich, let us know. But yeah, because I mean the Eagles are gonna win, guaranteed. Just hope it's a good game. All right, we got this thing way up in the air because hot air rises, so you know the furnace should really dry this thing off quick. You can tell it's already got a good start. She's dripping pretty good. This thing is a real gem. Just kidding. It's somebody else should own it, is what I'm saying. It's super nice. Somebody needs a project. I'm sure it's gonna run and drive just fine. Oh, but look at this gem that we found her cleaning it out. Is that a mandible? I don't know. It's teeth. I'm thinking cow, maybe? Probably? What do you think, Duff? Is that off of Hereford? Angus. Charlet. It's going in the trash, is where it's going. I wonder how much other stuff was in that snow we shoveled out that's gonna show up in the yard when it melts. I did catch a beer bottle. The previous owners were into, ooh, Boulevard. Can't go wrong with a Boulevard. We got her all thawed out, don't we, Duff? I'm gonna give you an apology right now. We turned the furnace off for the walk around here. But it is -19 degrees and the wind is howling, so the furnace is just gonna run non-stop the entire time this video. I don't know when it's gonna warm up. So, one of the things we gotta deal with in the Great White North. All right, let's take a look at this thing. So this is a 1968 Ford F100 two-wheel drive long box in lunar green. Probably my second favorite color of these pickups. So the boxwood green is my favorite. Lunar green's pretty good. And then Calypso Coral is what my orange one is. It's a solid tie between Lunar and this, but Boxwood's my favorite. I think there was a Drake green as well. But this is a lower, what is it, a custom or a sport? It's got the steel painted grill. It does have the chrome bumper. It's just, it's a farm pickup. Looks like somebody torched some holes down there for putting a tow bar on it. Last tagged February of 05, 32. That's Hamlin County, South Dakota. South Dakota goes by counties, first 2 digits. The top 10 are go by population, and then after that they go alphabetical. So H apparently is the 32nd county in there. But yeah, this thing's got a whiskey dent there. That was probably from the hitch going through there. The grill is torn there. She's a hybrid, of course. Maybe if we could find the end of that. We're gonna need that if we start it in this negative 19 degree temperature. I don't know if they had it in a building and something melted or what, but there's this, I don't know, maybe some other Ford owner saw this thing and it's Ford owner goo. I don't know. I'm not gonna get the black light out or anything, so we're just gonna leave that there for now. But yeah, all the glass is in it. Lenses are all in it. It's really, really, really good for rust. It's, you know, got a crease in that fender there. I don't know what happened. I suppose the bumper came back, pushed it up, but there's no rust in the dog legs. There's a dent in the trim there. The seal around the windshield was all shrunk up. This is usually from barbed wire fences. You can see the barbed wire usually goes to the highest point and then stops and rides right there and then got all the way up to there. And you can see her wrapped down the side. Got caught on the bumper, wrapped around there. She's been through a couple of barbed wire fences. Don't ask me how I know that those are barbed wire scratches. Maybe from experience. This door, I can appreciate that. That's some body by Mortske going on right there. I think they got out the old English stump and really worked her out. And I'm guessing that's where that trim was probably sacrificed in that accident. You know, maybe a fence post when they were following said fence line. Also, that's where probably the mirror was lost. Even the gas cap is hailed out. Like, how does that happen, Duff? The box sides is pretty good until you get to about right here. That dent could be worked out pretty easily. The tailgate, oh my gosh. This thing, I was surprised to find it in the bed, but I don't know. This thing is wasted. I do dig how the handles swing. I don't know if this one's gonna swing. She's still a swinger. Instead of lifting up, they swing sideways. How neat is that?
How neat is that?
Bed floor is all there. Tech tip of the day, don't leave your 60 pound of Quikrete laying in the back of your pickup outside. You can tell it's been sitting in the trees by the way that there's tree droppings all over it. Looks like that is the cranial cavity of said critter. Another critter, I'm thinking that's raccoonish size looking. I don't know. What do you think, Duff? He's like, I'm just a poo expert. I don't know much about bones. You do chew on some bones now and again, but not those ones. We got a chain through, I don't know, tying the hogs up in the back, maybe. It's got the gun rack in there. Pretty typical, the Midwest. America. Love it or leave it. That's a pretty old decal. The roof ain't all hammered out from jumping on it. We did have to pump up a couple of tires. Aftermarket tow bumper. Oh, look at these cute little tow hooks they put on there. I don't know if I'd trust that. It's not all bashed in around the tail lights though. So, I mean, that's all right. The box is probably the best part of the whole, like, oh, she's kind of pushed in up there. This back part is good. Missing the trim on the driver's side. And I could tell you that's no fun to put on. I made a video on that a long time ago and did it wrong, probably. This is dumb. Just dumb. But I think you could work out that box side. Front of the box, she's pushed in a little bit. Looks like she's contacted the back of the cab. But the cab corners, the bottoms of the doors, bottoms of the fenders, all that stuff is nice. Yeah, he must have pushed that whole fender back into, or bumper into that fender. It's super solid, super, super solid. Aftermarket flanger antenna. Looks like they had a giant tow mirror on this side. Black interior, padded dash. Oofda, she's ripe. Oh, are those Winstons? Oh yeah.
The Flintstones has been brought to you by Winston, America's best-selling, best-tasting filter cigarette.
She smokes, she pokes. Gotta love the old Ford lightning bolt. She's a 3 on the tree, and it looks like the bell on the column is roached out. Oh, look at that. They got a little mechanics wire and a carriage bolt and a square nut. All of the stuff going on to maintain that. Looks like that's, I don't know, for putting your arrows in, something like that. So, avid outdoorsman. Ice scraper. It's a storm performer. Ooh, some Remington. 300 Win Mags. OJ glove. Hey, there's the mirror for cutting your Hoover schneef and also seeing behind you. Some type of plastic coated wire. Ooh, what do we got in here? We got a full tune-up kit. Registration. More Winston. Rich blend flask. What is this? You get flasks of tobacco? What a deal. That's probably a collector to somebody. Let me guess. Used spark plug. You gotta put Delco spark plugs in your Ford to make it run good. Oh no, she's new. What a deal. We're just cashing in here. Well, Randall. Looks like it's got a name. Randy. Oh man, nobody ever throws their registrations away. They just stack them in here. Oh, fresh license plates. 97 South Dakota trailer. Used points. Oh, used condenser. The flashers are in the glove box if you ever need to know. Some John Deere parts. Probably worth more than the pickup. Standard ignition points. Those are the old ones. Definitely the old ones. Yep, used points. Oh, there's the owner's manual. What a deal. 1968 F100 through F350. Oh, look, they made the emblems and they made an F out of it for the Ord truck. I might have to dig through that some more when I got 2 hands. Oh, King Edwards. Heck yeah, cigarillos. Accessory kit offer inside. The finest little cigar made. Tissues. Kleenex is a copyrighted name, so they actually are facial tissues. You can't call everything a Kleenex. Oh, some drugs. What are they? From Dr. Rosso for Mrs. Ron Sathoff. 226 of 73. Huh. A church key in there. Wonder what that key's for, Duff. Probably for some pirate's treasure chest somewhere. We just gotta find it. I don't know what that bracket fits. Oh, is this his little black book? Farmers and Merchants Bank and Trust of Watertown. Wants to take a mystery pill. Oh, my Lanta 2. It's extra strength. 2 left. It's the Stewart 651s. Are they the good ones?
When it comes to Quaaludes, the Lemon 714 was the holy grail.
I thought they were like a myth.
3 times as powerful as anything available today.
One for me and one for you, Duff. Want to get crazy? Pop some pills? Yeah, me either. Not my jam. So what do we got here? Go through these contents up here on the bench where I could use 2 hands. These are not, they don't say anything on them. LC 8.4. Huh. We'll stash those away. Someday maybe we'll buy a gun that they fit. Oh, look at that. Ford tune-up kit. Standardized, certified performance. It fits the Bronco 6, 66 to 74. Pretty much all 66 to 74 Ford 6-cylinders. What a deal. Who sold these? A product of Wells Manufacturing. Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Made and printed in the USA. Oh, we're ready to go. Oh, it even comes with the red pill to pop when you're done if you don't do it right. Oh, I wonder if that was his mom or his aunt or somebody. Viola. I think we got to name it Viola now. I dig it. $14 in 1975 as well. This thing's been in the family for quite a while. Esteline Cooperative Grain Company. I don't know if that still exists, but they sold some wheat for, doesn't say. Ooh. KFC napkin. Hey, once you see that and see that it's little arms and little legs instead of a bolo tie, you can never unsee it. You're welcome. Settle down, Duff. Ooh, tacks and facts. How to find the tracks, you know, if you're tracking a moose or a black bear, a Dall sheep, bighorn sheep, mountain lion. We better hang on to that, Duff, you know, in case we're stalking some mountain lions. JCPenney Auto Center. Man, did JCPenney's even exist? Of course it was Mom who took it there. And then the NRA official 50-foot small bore rifle target. Mojo, is it cold out there? The operating instructions for a New Holland automatic pickup baler. We're making the old idiot cubes. We could throw that right in the trash. Anything good in the owner's manual? Viola. I'm gonna forget that name. Well, this is kind of neat. Here's the warranty number. Owner's name was Thomas Cones, Castlewood, South Dakota. So right outside of Castlewood to the west is what they call Cones Corner. And I don't know if it was whatever. The Cone family must have lived there, and they sell guns, and it's a gas station and convenience store. So I wonder if this Thomas Cones is related to him, because it's from Castlewood. It looks like they went to Nissan Motors in Miller, South Dakota, and bought her new March 15th, 1968. Dig that old history. Pretty cool. Howdy folks, welcome to this week's Mortske Minute. The owner of this pickup originally in 1968 was Thomas Corky Cones. Although he's no longer with us, he passed away in 2014. He sounds like he was a pretty good individual. He served our military in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1954 for 3 years and was in active duty in Japan, Hawaii, and Korea. But that segues into a little known fact about Cones Corner. So Cones Corner is on the intersection of Highway 81 and the corner that goes to Castlewood, South Dakota. I don't know. It's just south of Watertown, South Dakota, a few miles. And Cones Corner was started in 1925 by what would be probably Thomas's grandfather. Thomas's grandfather had a single pump gas station on this corner, and that was a visible gas pump. They'd pump it up to however many gallons you wanted, and then you'd put your car in there, and it would gravity feed down into the gas tank of your car. That business carried on for several years. It went from Thomas's grandfather down to one of his aunts, it would be, and then his aunt and uncle. They passed it on in about 1964 to Kurt Carter, which would have been another grandson of one of the original Cones that started it. So that's how Cones Corner started. There's a family of Cones that lived there in the big house that they call it. There was about 9 or 10 siblings that all lived there. The house is still there, inhabited by Cones' offspring. And now it's a lot bigger. It's small, generally speaking, compared to a lot of gas stations. And they started selling dry goods there back in the day and groceries and all that, because not everybody went to town, and they would barter eggs and cream and what have you for gas and dry goods. But in about 1964, 1966, when Kurt Carter took over, then they started selling a gun or 2 or 3 here and there. And now it's a huge gun business. They carry about 2,500 guns. They sell them online. Go ahead, check them out. We'll leave a link down here, or the website for Cones Corner. Check them out. Kurt's son Vic is now currently running it, and then there's his son Charlie is actually heavily involved. They do rentals of tents and chairs and tables for weddings and stuff like that too. So there's a little history that segues from Thomas Corky Cones, who bought this 1968 Lunar Green Ford pickup, brand new, into a family-run business that is still being operated in this day by relatives of Corky's. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this little tidbit. Let us know what you want to hear about in the next Mortske Minute. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Looks like she was inspected in 1979. Some spare spark plugs, a hitch ball. Let's see how many miles are on this hot rod. Oh, he must have been a Pepsi fan. Oh, I wonder if that thing floats for when you lose her in the river when you're out boating. 30,540. So I'm guessing she's got 130 on it. Dale Sinclair and Esteline changed the oil. Oh, it doesn't even say a date on here. At 30,366. Oh, there's a date. Looks like 03. 30,366. And it's at 30,540. So, she only got about 180 miles on her in the last 2 years it was tagged. But yeah, the floors, super solid. Looks like somebody ruined the armrest, but don't worry, they fixed her up with some rubber belting. Rockers are solid, cab corners are solid. You can open the hood, Duff. Door doesn't latch so good. You can open the hood. All right, here we go. She's got an inline 6. You could either get a 240 or a 300. There's probably a really easy way to tell them apart, but I don't know what it is. Looks like she's got the old Econo Power battery in it and the adjustable battery hold down. You just put as many knots in your tarp strap as you need to hold her down. These things always rust out on the inner fenders. So does this one. Where the battery sits, all the battery acid gets in there. Why is there a ladle just hanging out on the inner fender? Oh, this has got the, oh, it had the push button on the radiator, but it's no more. Coolant is dry. No power steering, no power brakes. It does have a dual reservoir master cylinder. I believe this was the 2nd year. That was mandatory. Looks like they got all the high performance holes in the air cleaner for getting all of the air in there. I'm guessing this is a 240 just because it's a 100 stripper model. Not only do battery hold down batteries, it looks like they also double function as clutch pedal returns. Oh yeah, that's your return spring. Brilliant. Brilliant! Oh, we could probably clean this off and see how many cubic inches of awesomeness this thing is. And it's not gonna tell us. Looks like she's got the PZ1 Pennzoil oil filter on her. Does it turn over? Looks like it wanted to. It's got all the compressions. We better need 2 hands. Okay, maybe not. Son of a biscuit. Not another stuck engine. Not 2 weeks in a row. They said it was running one part. Where's the dipstick, Jimmy? Got any oil in it? There it is. And she's full. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's a 6-cylinder. You can't kill the 6 cylinders. If you could, I would end up with the one that was dead. Well, let's get this Econo Power out of the way. Clean up some battery cable ends and throw a battery in it. See if this thing will bump over. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna turn the furnace on before it gets much colder in here, and that thing has no chance of keeping up. Sorry about the noise. I guess we could always move to Arizona. Wouldn't have to deal with this. Looks like Mr. Meeseeks is our battery sponsor this week.
I'm Mr. Meeseeks! Look at me!
Clean up these nasty battery cables, which look like they should go right in the trash. The hardware did come loose, surprisingly, so that's nice. And the ground looks like it goes to where the power steering pump would be on that bracket, so it's hooked up to the engine. At least it's not hooked up to the body or something silly like that. No smoke. Sweet. Go tap the key, see what happens. You kids keep an eye on that fan blade and see if it rotates, you know? Or if it just goes ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Because I'd love to rip into a starter. I'd rather rip into a starter than a stuck engine, let's be honest. Hey, no flexi hoses. Win!
Winning.
Well, as you can tell, we're just getting a whole lot of clicking going on there, so I'm gonna really clamp down these battery cables because I feel like that's where our issue is at, a bad connection. So we're gonna put the locking pliers on there, really get them contacted and such. Because it would be way too easy just to go grab some new cables off the shelf and throw in here. That would blow the budget. We already spent way too much money on this thing. Just remember, it's lunar green, it's worth it. All right. Now let's try her. Still nothing, so let's go ahead and just put a wrench on the front of the crankshaft here and see if we can turn it over by hand. And then that'll determine if it's the starter or the electrical connection. Let's diverge down that fork in the road. Stuck engine, Starter issue. Stuck engine, electrical. Let's not go down the path to the right of stuck engine. Please? Come on, Ford gods, be nice to me this week. I take back all the terrible things I said about you. I really do like 67 to 72 Fords, you know this. The door latches, even on banged up doors, are infinitely better than 67 to 72 Chevrolets. And we won't even mention Mopars. 15/16, the longest 84 tooth gear wrench ratchet that I own. Go in your home. You know where your home is?
That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
You always want to go clockwise, tighten it, because if you go loosen it, it's just going to loosen the bolt. Oh, no!
No! No! No!
I don't know how much tighter we dare go. Being a Ford, it probably has no inspection cover that we can pry on the bottom of the engine. So, what are we gonna do, Duff? Let's pull the spark plugs out, put some lube down there, can't hurt, right? Right. Before we do that, I'm gonna mark where number 1 is, and then we're gonna determine, it does go clockwise. 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. 15's too young, 36 too old, 24 is just right. Should probably take this off the crankshaft so when it does start turning over, we don't have a 6-foot ratchet bashing around underneath the hood. It's always good when you gotta use a pry bar to get your plug wires off. Come on now. Coil them up real good. And we'll leave her set for a bit, lift her up in the air, and see if we can't find a way to hook onto the flywheel and turn this son of a biscuit over. Well, we got her up in the air. Let's take a look at the bottom side before we... Oh, I bet we can make an adapter to hook onto that crank pulley if we really had to. So it's got the twin I-beam suspension.
Twin I-beam front suspension. 2 front axles instead of 1 that step over bumps independently for a smoother car-like ride.
I believe 64 was the first year of that. 4-wheel drive was a twin traction beam, which 80 was the first year of that. Was it 65? 65 was first year 2-wheel drive, 80 first year 4-wheel drive. I think, I don't know. Ford guy's gonna yell at me. Kind of a neat design. They don't accommodate well the lowering. You gotta get the drop beams, but not everybody likes the lower stuff. Sure enough, not much we can do here to pry on the flywheel. So I guess we're gonna be making an adapter. Yay!
Yay!
But everything looks pretty good under here. The core support underneath the battery, a little soft. That inner fender underneath the battery like I was talking about. Cute little 6-cylinder radmiator. Again, little rot in the core support. Bumper's a little winged up. Drum brakes, 3-speed, non-overdrive, glass pack. Oh, there's a little rot in the floors there. A little soft, but it's not like you're gonna fall through. Rear cab supports are awesome. Front cab supports are the first thing to go on these pickups. And this one's just barely bubbling out. Got some stress cracks. I mean, these are totally runnable, I would say. You can take this cover off right here and clean out in there, and those things will last probably forever if you're not using this thing as a work pickup, getting her full of gravel dust. That's the detriment on these cabs. I'm sure they make them. I've never patched them before, but you'll see these things drooping off to one side or the other, or both sides, and then they'll be falling down on the steering column. Driver's side looks phenomenal. I don't see... she's starting to just barely peek through right there. Really good. A little bit of rust in the toe board on that side. Again, floors are a little soft, but I would not be afraid to run those. And then right back here, there's the inner and outer, I don't know, rear cab support. Dirt sits in there. You can see she's starting to rot out a little bit. Just things you look for on 67 to 72 Fords. They all pretty much have that. The good part is nobody really sees it, so technically you could just cut this off. Nobody would be any the wiser unless you had a 67 to 72 expert looking at that. Yeah, something to look for if you're looking at these pickups. A little number 9 wire holding the exhaust up. Quick Dick McDick would be proud.
Till next time, this is Quick Dick McDick reminding you, a man will never get tired of pulling on his number 9 wire.
2-piece drive shaft, hanger bearings in good shape. Park brake stuff is all there. Wow. Exhaust looks like it just kind of dumps right over the rear end. A little more number 9 wire. I mean, wow. That's some farmer stuff there. It looks like it had the pretty light leaf spring setup and then one overload. It is missing the shock on the driver's side, and also the main leaf is busted. So the rear end is really sagging down over here. So she needs a main leaf. Probably should just put both shocks on there. It's got a 9-inch. Let's clean that up, see what we got for a gear ratio on this thing. Posi? Not a chance. Oh yeah, the rear end was not turning when I picked it up and when we got it in, so we'll have to address that. Maybe it's limited slip. That'd be my luck. It's limited slip, but it's all rusted out. Perfect. Let's see what gear ratio it is. 3-speed, I'm guessing like a, I bet she's got 350s in her. Close. She's a 370. But I don't see an L, so I doubt it is a locker. 3.70. Not a bad ratio. Especially if you had an overdrive, that'd be real highway friendly gear. Well, the pinion isn't seized, well, who knows what's seized. Maybe it's in the brakes. We're gonna have to take the brakes off to get the axles out anyway, but let's focus on the engine for now. Anything else back here noteworthy? No spare tire mount. Taillight / trailer wiring is all hanging on by hopes and dreams. No surprise. See that all the time. There is the factory license plate mount because they shipped most of these pickups without rear bumpers. Because dealers in the Midwest always put these toe bumpers on, so that's where the license plate would go until you got your toe bumper installed. All right. I guess we will be making an adapter to go onto that crank pulley to see if we can't get this thing cranking over. Sweet. So I was gonna put this fancy adapter on there because it looks like it's the same bolt pattern. We know you can't get too wild with these. And then Tiffany, she said, unhook that drive shaft. Maybe it's stuck in gear and that's why the rear end doesn't turn and that's why you can't turn the engine over. So we're gonna unhook that drive shaft real quick, just to eliminate that from the equation. Well, moment of truth, definitely is in the rear end. Drive shaft spins free. So, now we got a stuck diff and a stuck engine. Perfect. We're getting beat again by Ford's. You probably can't see this, but this thing doesn't have a small enough bolt pattern on it to bolt to the front of this crank pulley. So we're gonna have to make something, or maybe the ones that I've already made we'll work on here. Dang, we just need like a huge pipe wrench that just hooks onto that. Yeah, but then it would just blow out that rubber that's already pretty much blowed out on the harmonic balancerisms. Shoot! Just can't get a win here. So of course this is a different bolt pattern than any of the mitt tools that I got, and so I was gonna try to pull this harmonic balancer off, but the radiator's in the way and I'm too lazy to pull that out of there. And we gotta figure out how to put it back on there. So I just measured it. It's a 3-inch diameter. So I took the SBC crank turning tool, the mitt, the make it turn tool, and I marked it straight through, so because you got to have what, 360 degrees, 120 degrees apart each one of these. So I marked straight across from my center line each way, and then I marked where 1.5 inches is on each one. So we're gonna go drill those out in the drill press, and then we're gonna see if it fits. and then it's not gonna fit, and then we're gonna go remount the holes, because that's what we like to do. Do things multiple times. All right, let's drill some holes. It's a great day to drill holes, ain't it, Duff? Moment of truth, I give it about a 4% chance that she actually fits. Yep. I can get one in. You can't even get two? Come on. We're so bad at this. It's like a 2 3/4 inch roll batteries. These are way up. Great. Well, I guess we'll just ream them out even bigger. Got the holes reamed out in our mitt and got her mounted up. Now let's get this engine to crank over. Come on now. Play nice. Oh dear. Not even a budge. Oh. We're gonna have to get out the 3/4 inch stuff again. Alright, let's go get the 3/4 inch drive stuff. Got sick of borrowing Mojo's 3/4 inch stuff, so we got our own Tecton from the old Amazonia. And we got ourselves a 3-foot cheater pipe here. Let's see what their warranty is like. Oh, there she budged. Alright, let's work her back the other way. A little bit at a time. That's crazy. This thing's only been sitting for 18 years. That's nothing. Something let loose. Was it the keyway? Huh. Oh yeah. Turns way too good that way though. Yeah, I think it was the keyway. Not good. That's a new one. The whole inside of the crank pulley decided to let loose. She's pretty stuck, I'd say. Now what are we gonna do? Ruh-roh.
Uh-oh.
That is no good for business. Good news is, I'm sure these are plentiful and cheap. We better talk to Tiffany and have a sandwich. Figure out what we're gonna do now. Well, looks like we're gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. Pull the head off, beat the snot out of it, heat the snot out of it. Just improvise as we go. I know everybody's like, oh, Peter, just soak that thing. I don't have time. We gotta do one of these every single week, so we don't have time to let stuff soak. And from my experience, the soaking stuff, it maybe helps a little bit.
I love a soaking accord.
Plus, I don't have time where it's like, oh, if you every time you pull these vehicles in, if you just pulled all the spark plugs, there's only so many hours in the day. And I don't know if the engine's gonna be stuck. And then plus, whatever you're dumping in there costs money, and it's probably ruining the earth, Greta says.
How dare you?
So, yeah, we're not into the soaking thing. We're just into the brute force and ruining things. The good news is, this thing's got an aluminum timing cover, and when that front crank pulley exploded, it expanded and broke the timing cover, so really making stuff happen today. All right, we're gonna get this hood off so that I can see what I'm doing under there, and you guys can see what I'm doing under there. Under where? Comment down below your favorite dad joke. I love dad jokes. Somebody commented it last week. A couple years ago, couldn't afford to pay the electricity bill. Those were the darkest times in my life. That's a good one. All right, we're gonna get the hood off here and start ripping apart this buzzing half dozen.
6 in a row ready to tow 8 to V, you probably sit down to pee.
Oh man, it does not look good underneath the valve cover over here. I'm sure we're gonna have some sticky valves, eh, Duff? We already checked out the bottom side. Oh, you think we broke something in the bottom end? That's why she's stuck? Well, it looks like it's had the old Pennzoil oil changes. She's pretty grimy in there. There's a lot of debris, but we're gonna keep going just for you folks out there in YouTube land. All right, I think I pretty much got her. We gotta nip the exhaust pipe, and then we're gonna pull some head bolts, and I think it'll come right out. That's the beauty of these 6-cylinders. You don't have to pull an intake off. You just leave the intake and exhaust all with the head. A bada bing, a bada boom. But I'm guessing if the inside of the engine cylinders looks anything like the inside of the valve train, we're gonna be in for some real fun. A treat for you folks, similar to the old 70 Pontiac that we ripped into. Let's take a look at the cylinder head first. This is what I believe we're calling cylinder number 3. The culprit. She's pretty rusty in there. But also, one was pretty rusted up as well. Look at that rust in there. Yeah, there's been a lot of water in that cylinder. Love this stuff. Absolutely love it. No, I don't. I do not. It'd be a lot cooler if this was like a 396 Chevy or a 427 Ford or something worth a damn, but nope, it's a 6-cylinder. If this is a 300, this is impossible because everybody on the internet says you can't kill a 300. A 300 is going to haul the last running LS to the scrapyard, apparently. But this must be a 240 then. What are the odds we got everything? I see coolant seeping out, so I must have got all the head bolts. Oh, it's that? Get a drain pan? Okay, Greta.
How dare you!
Let's even drain the radiator. It's nice and green at least. Let's see if I can't give myself a hernia pulling this head off. Well, surprisingly, everything looks really, really good up here. But over here, well, everything looks good here as well in the combustion chambers, but I've never seen push rods stuck in a head. So, maybe once we free those up, she'll turn over. And then I don't know what we're gonna do. This thing's really snowballing here. We got no way to turn it over other than the starter, but we're gonna try that. So here goes nothing. Let's throw battery back in it. Our ground is still hooked to our block, so yeah, should turn over. Cylinder walls look good. Tops of the pistons look good. And there's really no reason why this shouldn't turn over. Don't use sealers. Oh, yeah, because we're definitely not gonna put some head gasket in a can on that one to put it back together. So I'm thinking that the stuck valves and rockers and push rods is what was keeping this thing from turning over. And yes, it makes sense if you don't think about it. All right, I'll go bump the key, see what happens. I think I saw it move a little bit. It's too bad we hosed up that pulley up front. And we don't have an extra one because we could just loosen it up with that. I'll play with the battery connections, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just the solenoid. So this is a perfect example of, if you just soak that engine, soaking this engine would have done absolutely nothing. We couldn't fill the top end with enough fluid on the stick those valves. there you go. Filling a cylinder with your favorite goo is not going to work every single time. Also, none of those cylinders have any coil left in them, so it's all running past the rings. So let's try the old bypass the solenoid trick. Not working. And we got a fire. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, put your danger. Son of a biscuit. Now how are we gonna get that thing to turn? I really don't want to throw a pipe wrench on the front of the crank because you know what that's gonna do to the crank. I do have a crank pulley on the 69 Ford F250, but that is in a snowbank. It's minus 15 degrees. So I don't really want to go take that off. Maybe we can get that starter off down there and we can get a bar in there or something. Yeah. Let's try that. Oh, it's been so long since we worked on a starter. I'm just losing sleep. Let's do a little bench test, see if this thing works. It has been rebuilt. It's got a tag on it. What is that? UP, what is it? United Pacific something. Oh, it's a Gwinner Corporation. It's a Gwinner rebuilt. We're just gonna stick with that. Alright, here goes nothing. And nothing is exactly what we're gonna get. For sure it can't be a poor connection. It never is. Alright, let's look for a different starter. Because I don't have any Ford starter parts laying around if we were to open this thing up. You don't suppose it's the same on an 85 Ford with a 302. That would be way too handy. This one's a Delco, so you know it's going to work. Now the connection's in a different spot. Ooh, this is altogether different. This has got a stamped steel rear housing. This has got a cast aluminum housing. Sure, it'll be just fine. Let's see if it bolts on there. Son of a biscuit, that thing bolted right on there. But who knows if the tooth count's the same or if the drive's in the same position. I'm guessing it's in the same position, but tooth count's the only thing I'm worried about. So either this thing's gonna turn over, or it's not. Or it's gonna just explode the nose cone on my brand new starter for 85 Ford. We might as well find out. You know, it's sitting on the shelf, so it's doing no good there. We might as well see what happens. Here we go. It moved a little ways, so I don't know why it stopped. It's kind of concerning. I think I'm gonna pull that starter back out of there and we'll see if we can't get a bar in there on the teeth. There's not a lot of room to work with on these Fords, so see what we can do if we can turn this engine over backwards. I really wish I hadn't screwed up that front pulley. So here's what we got to work with the flywheel teeth on this Ford. You can kind of get in here and pry. It's not ideal. And then old Tiffany said, you know, what's going to keep that bottom end from turning? That thing should turn free. You ain't going to have much of a starter. And I said, rod hanging out the block? I don't see any rods, but I see an awful lot of dirt missing right here. And you see that little dent right there? That's from the inside out. You don't suppose something ran into the side of that oil pan from the inside, eh? Not what I want to see. And then again, it's not greasy up here. Is that another dent up top? Oh yeah, so there's a dent there, and there's a dent right there. And they're pretty sharp. I ain't very sharp.
I'm not a smart man.
Those dents is sharp. Oh yeah, and here's a cracked up timing cover from when that crank pulley decided to implode and push out, and break that. Really making a mess of this thing, but I think it was already a mess.
Bring your brooms because it's a mess.
I'm gonna try to turn this thing over with a bar, and then we're gonna try to figure out which rod that would be if it ran into the side of the oil pan, and then maybe we'll play whack-a-mole with that piston and see what's going on. Worst case scenario, we're gonna pull the oil pan off and see the mess that is in there. Ran when parked. There's a reason it was parked. Everything was running when it was parked. It was running until it wasn't. Every day is a great day in the Mortske shop here. Just love it. Let's try going clockwise first. There just is not a good way to turn these Ford engines over. Nope. There's not. Okay. How about counterclockwise? I bet it goes, yep, sure enough. Now, if we had a camera up top watching whichever piston that is, I would guess it's like number 3, maybe 4. Oh, she's getting stiff. Stiff up a lip. Oh, I could go for a stiff drink. Well, at least you know you can turn a Ford over by hand on the flywheel. Oh, I think that's about it. Son of a... Let's go up top, take a peek. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, front to back. So 1 and 6 are at the same position. 2 and 5 are at the same position, and 3 and 4 are at the same position. Those dents in the oil pan are like directly right there in between 3 and 4. And those two are moving exactly as they should, along with each other. So I don't believe that it's got a broken rod. Maybe it broke a rod at another time, but it's, like I said, and those dents are not right direct. It's not in line with a rod cap. Not to say that something couldn't have went kitty-wampus whammy. But I think we'll keep trying to turn it over backwards. And we'll keep an eye on these pistons. And we'll see what they're doing. And go from there, I guess. I don't know why this thing's turning over so hard if it doesn't have something broken in the bottom end. You can't get that oil pan off without pulling the engine out. And we're not going to go that far until we know what's going on. I'm not going to pull the engine out to find out that everything's fine in that bottom end. So we're going to keep turning it over, even though that thing's turning over stiffer than a wedding, you know what. Okay, let's go back up in the air and see if we can't get her turning over. Maybe we'll get crazy, get a full rotation. Yeah, right, 1 tooth at a time. South Dakota things.
I'm on meth.
Which is fitting, being it's a South Dakota pickup. Stuck! Oh! My land. Yeah, I can't get her to turn anymore and get a better bite. It is not. Oh, there we go. I tell you what, 150, 160 times to do that all the way around is not gonna happen. I do not have it in me. Oh, for cheese and rice. What is your problem? Oh, there's something going on in that bottom end. Looking at these cylinders number 3 and 4, you can see that they moved, about 3/8 of an inch down when we turned it that last little bit, so I don't think that there's a rod broken. So the only other thing, I don't know what the only other thing is. Maybe in the transmission something's hanging up in there. but the transmission's in neutral, drive shaft turns. It could be something internally on the front end of the transmission where the back end can turn, but the front can't, and so we're fighting the clutch. Could it be the clutch? No, because the clutch should just freewheel the transmission. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna raise it up. We're gonna pull the bell housing bolts out. We're gonna pull the engine mount bolts out. You know what that means? That means that the Duff has made the executive decision that for the good of all you folks on the old YouTube land, we are gonna pull this engine out. And we're gonna pull that oil pan off. We're gonna see why this thing isn't turning over, and we're gonna get it turning over. And then hopefully we're gonna get it running. So I mean, with the head off, you already got the exhaust done, the throttle linkage done, half the radiator and heater hose is done. So it's a 6-cylinder. I like 6 cylinders. I do. I know a lot of people hate them, but I really like a good running 6. Nothing wrong with a good 6. There's a reason we put that 194 back in that 64 Chevy C10, because A, we had it, and B, there ain't nothing wrong with a 6-cylinder. And I'll argue that with anybody. For a good cruiser, nothing wrong with a 6. Nothing beats a 6. So we're gonna pull this thing out, and we're gonna hopefully get this thing running, or we're gonna die finding out what the heck is keeping this thing from turning over. So we'll maybe work real fast here. Maybe we'll find a surprise when we drain the oil out of it. Who knows? Stick around, find out. Fitzy's fabrication for you. All right, here goes nothing. Oh boy, there is a lot of coolant in there. Why is that? Just a little bit. The coolant might have been from when we pulled the head off and cracked the seal and didn't drain the coolant, so some of that might have gotten the oil there. Otherwise, oil looks a little thin. Maybe some fuel got in there. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe they wiped out the bearings on the bottom end. Fuel pump went out. Diaphragm. Filled the crankcase with fuel. Didn't seem like it was over full though. I don't know if the camera is picking that up, but that is some very, very thin oil. Well, I'm sure the camera's picking it up. I don't know if you can tell. But yeah, it's not overly thick. Oh, and that's awesome. Way to put a drain plug right on the crossmember Ford. Well done. Okay. I guess no surprises. Like I said, fuel. Maybe that wiped out the bearings. Maybe that's why she's so stiff. I don't know. Guess we'll keep investigating. See what we forgot to unhook. I don't know that I've ever pulled a 240 or 300 Ford engine before. So, nice part about these things is all the electrical connections, except for the alternator. So the oil pressure, the temp sender, and the coil are all just push to connect. So no tools required. Well done, Ford. Really thinking of the mechanic 50 years down the road. All right, let's see what we can bring. Let's loose the engine mount. Still stuck on the bell housing. Bada bing, bada boom. Well, that went surprisingly well. The only thing I think was hung up on was the dowel pin on the driver's side, which would be that guy right there. I'm pretty sure this clutch has almost no miles on it. You don't suppose that was part of the issue? I mean, it was freshly resurfaced. I mean, it's got a little bit of surface rust. I would bet that clutch doesn't have a couple hundred miles on it. Ring gear looks amazing. It'll be interesting to see what we find. Let's get it mounted into the engine stand. I think I'm gonna have to take the clutch off, the pressure plate, and see what happens. Yeah, that's a nice surprise, I guess. Cool. Based on what we saw underneath the valve cover, I expect to see a lot of sludge under here. Really not as bad as you'd think. Okay, it's about an inch thick in the bottom. So you can see right where the oil pump pickup sits. And look at that. There's at least 3/4 of an inch of sludge all through the bottom of this pan. So routine maintenance will prevent this, hopefully. Right, Duffers? Yeah. I know your routine maintenance requires ear and belly rubs. Also, look at how rusty that cam is and the crank. I don't get how the humidity got in here and rusted all that stuff up. And I don't know where those dents in the oil pan come from, because I don't see anything fresh in there. Like something would have hit it. But something has definitely smacked it. 1, 2, 3 spots in there. So that would be on this side. I don't know. I can see why these things last forever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mains on a 6-cylinder. I mean, these things are built like tanks. But I don't know. Man, this thing is full of sludge. Look at it all just built up in there. I suppose it could be the timing gear, something in there preventing it from turning over. I doubt it. Also, we tried putting a bar on it, just turning the flywheel with everything loose to make sure it wasn't the clutch or the transmission or whatever, and it's still super stiff. So I guess start pulling some caps off and see what's going on in the bearings. Awesome, just what I wanted to do today. Tear apart a Ford inline 6. It's even boring the dog to sleep. This might be interesting. So all of the rod caps and the main caps are marked. It says 6 on this one, 5 on this one. And then it's cast right into these main caps. 5, or excuse me, 6, and it's got an arrow pointing forward, 5, 4, so on and so forth. So we're just gonna go ahead and rip this thing all down and see if we can find the culprit to why she's turning over so dang hard. All the rod caps are off. I don't see any huge surprises. Let's see if it turns over now. Well, that's interesting. Seems to turn fine now. I didn't see any of them that were spun. I mean, none of them look amazing. None of them look terrible either. I guess we'll just hook them back up one by one and see which one's dragging. There you can see how the bearings look. I mean, They don't look terrible. Not sure what's causing the hang up here. I don't know if you can see that, but they got the original Ford number on it, so these are standard bearings as well. So this might be a little bit concerning. That's the rod bearing on number 1. There's a lot of rust on that crank journal. The rest of them look pretty dang good. A little rust on this number 5, but that's definitely gonna cause a little resistance. And then look at these lobes on the camshaft. I can't imagine that's gonna be real great for our lifters and such. And then all that rust is gonna end up in the oil and contaminate the rest of the system. Yeah, that's a lot of crud. I think this thing just sat too long. Let's keep trying to put her together and keep seeing if it'll turn over. We shall see. There's the rod cap on number 5. There's definitely been some activity going on there. This is probably one of the rustier ones too. There you go again, number 4. It's got some buildup on there. I think this thing was, I don't know if it was running when it was parked or not. That bearing is not in good shape. That was number 4, this is number 3, same deal. It's just a lot of buildup in there. I mean, if we were doing this right, we would be pulling the crank, polishing it, putting new bearings in it. But we don't have new bearings. We don't have a crank polisher. We don't have all the time in the world. So we'll just put it back together. Hopes and dreams, kids. That's what this thing's gonna run on. I told you I'd pull a main cap off. There's your main cap for you. Same deal. There's some foreign material that's been transferred in there. And this is how the journal looks after I wiped it off. Yeah. A lot of rust on there. I don't even know if they would polish up. It's got to be turned. I mean, there's definitely stuff on there that would catch my fingernail. And I think that's kind of the rule of thumb, is if you can feel it with your thumb, or feel it with your, the rule of thumb is if you can feel it with your fingernail, it's no bueno, and you got to get her machined. So I'm going to snug up that main cap and think about what we're going to do with this engine next. And in the meanwhile, let's get that rear end figured out and loose, so at least this thing rolls, you know. 2 terrible engines, 2 weeks in a row, and 2 stuck rear ends. Hopefully it's just the brakes and we can free them up. Okay, what a peach this thing is, eh, Duff? Old Viola is kicking our behind. Well, that was easy. Fix that side. Just turn the adjuster. Uh-oh. Let it stop. That's interesting. Every once in a while, she just slams into something. Oh yeah, whatever. Let's go to the other side. So the deal was the brakes were dragging on both sides, so we adjusted them off. Everything turns fine. And look at these brakes. like brand freaking new. What a deal. All right, diff issue is solved. I'll hook up the drive shaft and we can wrap this end up. Look at this, we got half A on here. I don't know what that is, about a 12-inch lever on this turning tool, and you can't even get this thing to budge. And I turn engines over that have spark plugs in them and heads on them with compression, and that thing turns them over just fine. So there's enough resistance between the cam lobes and the lifters and the main bearings and the rod bearings and the pistons. They're going to be a little bit of drag on those, but I tapped all those down and they all seemed fine, and you guys have seen the bearings. So we could spin this thing over by hand a bunch and, you know, maybe get it turned over, but I don't think we're going to get it loose enough so that it turns over the starter, and then we got to get it turning fast enough with the starter to get this thing to fire off. And if we did all that, it would maybe run for a little bit, and then we're just gonna wipe everything out in this engine. All the bearings are gonna be shot, camshaft, it's just not gonna be good. That being said, I think we're just gonna bolt everything back together, put this in the bed of the pickup, and this is how we're gonna leave it. For the next guy, if you wanna own this thing, it does have a title. It's pretty dang solid. It's banged up, but I think if you found a couple pieces of trim and a driver's door, you could knock out the dents in the bedsides, find a tailgate for it. This thing wouldn't be a bad beater, especially for a young kid who wants to get into the vintage automobile, whatever. The brakes look great on the back. There's all kinds of parts available for these pickups. And I believe the bell housing, don't judge me on this because I'm not Ford expert of these years, but I'm almost positive that bell housing is the same as like a 302 or 351 Ford. So you could drop a V8 in this thing pretty dang easy. You might have to get some different engine mounts. Obviously you're going to need different radiator hoses, probably different radiator, so on and so forth. But this thing would be a great project for somebody on a budget. We'll put price and availability in the video description down below. If you want to see what other cars we got for sale, go check out Mortske Repair on Facebook. We are working on a website, but it ain't quite up and running yet. Go check out the merch as well. But what I would do if this was mine, I would find like a early 80s Ford Crown Vic with a 302 and an automatic, or a 351, and graft that front end onto here so you get independent front suspension, power steering, disc brakes, 4.5-inch bolt pattern, all that good stuff. You got to find a leaf spring for the back, probably do a flip, and then drop that drivetrain in there, get this thing nice and low. You have a nice clean driver for pretty budget friendly. You could probably use a lot of the Crown Vic parts out of that car. You could probably steal a seat out of it, wheels and tires, all that stuff, battery, you know, if you get a good enough one. Exhaust if you're super creative. But this 6-cylinder is, you could definitely go through this thing. If you pulled it out, polished the crank up, probably got a new cam and lifters, got some fresh bearings, honed out the cylinders, you're probably going to want to do a valve job. That's the other thing, is this bottom end is what it is, but we still got to go through the top end. You guys saw what that looked like. It's chewy up top there, to say the least. So I hate giving up on these things, but I mean, we don't have enough time in this week to get this thing all cleaned up and back together. And if I'm going to go that far, then might as well put an oil pump in it. We need oil pan gasket, head gasket, valve cover gasket, exhaust gasket, go through the card. We don't know if the brakes even work on it, which I'm thinking, judging by how they look, the brakes are probably working in this thing. It's already got a 9-inch in it. These are good pickups. Lunar green, best color out there. I think this paint would actually buff out. You get all the Ford owner crud off the hood there. So it would be pretty all right. But man, we got our butt kicked by, maybe it's just teal vehicles. We got our butt kicked by that 56 Chevrolet 4-door post. Now we're getting our butt kicked by this 68 Ford F100. It is what it is. You can't win them all. And so I'm sure somebody's gonna say, well, quit buying junk. Well, we can't afford to drag $8,000 Chevelles in and do those every week, or $12,000 Mustang fastbacks, or $14,000 68 Chargers. We got to stick with the $1,000 farm pickups. So it is what it is. I had my hopes high for this one. It's a 6-cylinder. We usually do pretty dang well on 6 cylinders. It's only been off the road for 18 years. This is when I was in college when this thing was off the road, so not that long ago. But that being said, I'm gonna slam this thing back together, cry my sorrows into some sandwiches. Duff is nowhere to be found because he's saving face because we couldn't get a Ford running. Good project for somebody. You need this thing. Hit us up, mortskerepair@gmail.com. Could be yours. Check the description down below because it might be sold, so just check that first. It's right down here. It's easy to find. All right, let's get this thing bolted back together and move on with our lives. Well, we got old Viola put back together here, and we put the engine in the back and the clutch and the starter and all the extra hardware in the cab for the next person. And sorry to disappoint you guys. I was really excited about this thing. Lunar green, like I said, awesome color. I was gonna wash this thing up, give it the old buff job like we know to do around here, get a little polish action going on in this thing. And I got a set of slotted mags I was gonna stick on this thing. This thing was gonna be sweet. Sweet! But since it doesn't run, I'm not gonna go through the effort of doing that. I'll leave that up to you, the next owner. So thank you very much for watching. Check out our other videos. Check out the link below for the merchandise. We could use the sale of this vehicle and the sale of some merchandise to buy some sandwiches during the Super Bowl, because yeah, the Eagles made it. So I'm gonna try like heck to make it to that game. Watch my cousin, cheer him on. So everybody be rooting for the Eagles. If you're a Chiefs fan, that's all right too. So thank you very much for watching. Remember, doesn't matter how you get it done, as long as you're having fun. It's not so fun when we don't get to go for an RIDE, is it, Duff? Yeah, I know. It's too cold to go for a ride anyway. Also, thanks for putting up with the noise of the furnace. This is the second time that it has quit running all day, so enjoy the silence. And Mojo back there working on an '85 Ford ignition switch.